Hello, my friends, and welcome back to Streamline English. I am so glad you are here. Take a breath, settle in. Tonight, the story we tell is both very recent and very old. As recent as this decade, and as old as any story of courage ever told. On October 9th, 2012, on a school bus in Pakistan's Swat Valley, a masked gunman boarded the vehicle and demanded to know which girl was Malala. Her classmates froze. Some looked toward her. The man raised his gun and fired. Malala Yousafzai was 15 years old. The bullet entered the left side of her forehead, passed through her head, and exited near her shoulder blade. She survived. And 2 years later, on October 10th, 2014, she was announced as the winner of the Nobel Peace Prize, becoming, at 17, the youngest person in history to receive that award. In the space between those 2 October days lies one of the most extraordinary stories of human courage, survival, and purpose of the 21st century. And at the heart of it is something remarkably simple. A girl who believed that every child deserved to go to school, and who would not stop saying so, even when the price of speaking was nearly her life. This is her story. If stories of real courage and real lives help you learn English, please subscribe to Streamline English. We tell a new story every week. Thank you, my friend. To understand Malala's story, you need to picture a place. The Swat Valley is a region in northwestern Pakistan, in the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province, near the border with Afghanistan. It is, by many accounts, one of the most beautiful places in that part of the world. A valley of rivers, orchards, mountains, and terraced farmland, sometimes called the Switzerland of Pakistan, for its green hills and clean air. Before the troubles came, it was a place of schools, hotels, tourists, and a relatively moderate local culture. People lived, worked, studied, and built lives there, as people do everywhere. Malala Yousafzai was born in the Swat Valley on July 12, 1997, the first child of Ziauddin Yousafzai and his wife Makai. Her birth was a cause of celebration for her father, even though in the local tradition, the birth of a daughter was greeted with considerably less ceremony than the birth of a son. Ziauddin wrote her name in the family's genealogical tree, something that was traditionally done only for boys. Genealogical, relating to the study of family history and descent. This small act tells you something important about Ziauddin Yousafzai. Malala's father, Ziauddin, was a teacher and education activist, a man who ran a school in the Swat Valley and believed deeply in the power of education for all children, girls as much as boys. He was, by Malala's own account, the most important influence on her life. He raised her with an unusual freedom for a girl in their culture, encouraging her to speak at dinner, to voice her opinions, to sit in on conversations with adult men that would normally exclude women. He told her not to be afraid. He told her to use her voice. The name Malala is connected to Malalai of Maiwand, a famous Afghan figure from the 19th century, a woman who, according to tradition, inspired Afghan fighters at a battle against British forces by lifting a veil to her face in a rallying cry for courage. Her courage, the story says, was decisive. Her name means grief-stricken, a name associated with passionate feeling and sacrifice. Ziauddin believed his daughter had inherited something of that spirit. He was right. In 2007 and 2008, the Taliban, the militant Islamist group, began moving into the Swat Valley, gradually extending their control over the region. As they established control, they imposed an extremely strict and violent interpretation of Islamic law. Music was banned, television was banned, Men were required to grow beards, and girls were forbidden from going to school. Militant, using or supporting confrontational or violent methods in support of a political or social cause. For Malala and her family, this was not an abstraction. It was their school, their lives. Her father's school had both boys and girls. The Taliban threatened that any school educating girls would be destroyed. In 2009, when Malala was 11, she began writing an anonymous blog for the BBC Urdu service, using the pseudonym Gul Makai, a name from a Pashtun folk story. The blog described daily life under Taliban control, the closures of girls' schools, the fear, the explosions heard at night, the world shrinking around the girls and women of the valley. It was read by thousands of people inside and outside Pakistan. Pseudonym, a false name used by an author or person in place of their real name. Her identity became known. She and her father gave interviews. They spoke on television and radio. They visited Islamabad. They advocated openly for the right of girls to receive an education. The Pakistani military launched operations against the Taliban in Swat in 2009, and the situation improved somewhat. The Taliban's hold on the valley weakened. Schools reopened. Life began to return toward normal. But the Taliban had not forgotten the girl who spoke. On the morning of October 9, 2012, Malala Yousafzai was on a school bus returning home from her school in the town of Mingora. She was 15 years old and sitting with her classmates. They had just finished exams. A masked man stopped the bus and boarded it. He asked which girl was Malala. Someone, perhaps involuntarily, glanced toward her. The man raised a Colt .45 pistol and shot her. The bullet entered the left side of her forehead, traveled along her skull, and lodged near her shoulder. 2 other girls were also wounded. Malala was unconscious and in critical condition. She was taken to a hospital in Peshawar, then airlifted to a military hospital in Rawalpindi, then flown to the Queen Elizabeth Hospital in Birmingham, England, where a specialist team treated her over the following weeks. The prognosis was initially very uncertain. The bullet had passed through her brain. There was swelling. There were risks of permanent damage. The doctors did not know how much of Malala's cognitive function, her thinking, memory, language, personality, would survive. Prognosis, a forecast of the likely outcome of a medical condition. Cognitive, relating to the mental processes of thought, memory, understanding, and language. She recovered. She recovered more completely than the doctors initially dared hope. There was some lasting damage. A facial nerve was affected, requiring surgery, but her mind, her language, her memory, her personality remained intact. Malala Yousafzai was still Malala. She had survived being shot in the head. She had survived it at 15, in a way that left her more determined than before. Malala's recovery took place partly in Birmingham, England, where she and her family eventually resettled. She attended school in Birmingham. She recovered. She began to speak again, publicly, clearly, with the same voice. On her 16th birthday, July 12, 2013, she addressed the United Nations in New York. She spoke in English, without notes, to an audience of world leaders and young people from around the world. She said that the Taliban thought they could silence her voice, but the extremists were wrong. Weakness, fear, and hopelessness died, she said, but strength, power, and courage were born. She was not there to speak on behalf of herself, but on behalf of all the girls in the world who were being denied an education. She paused, and then she said, "One child, one teacher, one book, and one pen can change the world, Education is the only solution. The room gave her a standing ovation. She co-wrote her memoir, I Am Malala, with journalist Christina Lamb, published in 2013. It became an international bestseller. In 2013, she founded the Malala Fund, an organization dedicated to advocating for 12 years of free, quality education for girls around the world. And on October 10, 2014, she received the Nobel Peace Prize, jointly with Indian children's rights activist Kailash Satyarthi. She was 17 years old. I want to say something carefully here, because I think Malala's story is sometimes reduced to a simple inspirational message that flattens the complexity of what she faced and what she chose. The choice to speak, and to keep speaking, after everything that happened to her and her family, was not a simple act of positivity. It was a deliberate choice to remain who she had been raised to be, even when the cost of that identity was almost her life. It was sustained by her father's teaching, by her community, by the support of people around the world, and by something inside herself that she had to choose, again and again. The world is still full of girls who cannot go to school. More than 130 million girls globally are currently out of school. The work that the Malala Fund and many other organizations do is not finished. Malala herself would say that. What she shows us, though, is that a voice can matter, that speaking clearly, consistently, and truthfully about what is right, even from a position of relative weakness, can reach and move the world. That one person, saying one true thing, repeatedly, can become something that changes what is possible. One book, one pen, one child, and one teacher can change the world. She said this at 16 to the United Nations. She said it to you. And you are here, in this moment, learning English, using your mind, your time, and your energy to reach across language barriers, to access more of the world's knowledge, to make your own voice able to travel further. Every effort you make to learn is a small, private act of the same thing. The belief that knowledge matters, that understanding matters, that your voice matters and deserves to be heard. You are right, it does. If Malala's story moved you today, if her courage and her clarity gave you something to think about, please give this video a like and subscribe to Streamline English. Your support truly matters. And tell me, in the comments, what does education mean to you personally? Why do you learn? I would love to read your answer. Until next time, my friend, keep learning, keep speaking, and have a beautiful day.